Initialize Serenity Sequence.
Welcoming inner peace.
Practicing mindful mischief. Because life shouldn't be that serious. Sending love to the world.
And flipping ether to the haters.
Ready to do this thing? All right, let's go.
Initialize Serenity Sequence.
Boom. How's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Yeah, that was fun. So I'll be looking this way and I'll be looking this way because my screens are dual and I have to go back and forth to do different things. So I'm paying complete attention to you guys as good as I can, but I have to look over here to do so. So boo and hi. All right, cool. It's good to see everybody. So first off, how's everybody doing? Y'all still around? And what do you guys think of the upgrade to the intro I'm working on? I'm trying to tweak all this stuff as good as I can, and it's coming along slowly but surely. Yes, calm is a good thing right now. I could definitely use some. And let me do this. Hey, how about that? Yeah. So I'm still playing with the toys, still figuring all this stuff out. So tonight we're going to basically refresh on what I'm talking about on this with the Kabbalah and the Tarot, where it kind of makes sense. I'm trying to get to where I'm showing the big picture a little bit more. I keep doing this because it's what's in my mind. So has everybody that's on here been on for some of these before? So kind of have an idea of where we're going. Hello, JoJo. This is very dangerous because JoJo likes to jump on my controls. Yeah. And cause chaos, which is perfectly appropriate for a cat for me. So let's see here. Trying to see. All right. So yes. Okay. So we're discussing how the tarot relates to the Kabbalah. And this is one of the things that lets us use it as a tool for meditation and personal growth. The tarot is great for divination purposes, but it's more powerful in other ways and for other things. Let me adjust this a little bit. There. I think it's a little bit better picture. So you can divide the Kabbalah into 3 triangles. There are 22 pathways in between 10 sephira in the Kabbalah. Now, each one of those 22 pathways corresponds to one of the cards in the major arcana on the tarot. And it all forms a pattern that makes sense. If you think of the Fool card as untapped potential going out into the world, well, when the Fool card comes from up here, from creation, from Kether, from cosmos, God, whatever you want to call it, and he moves out into the world, it's completely untapped potential. He could be anything. He could learn anything, become anything. So it's like an idea. And as this moves out, it follows a pathway. And when it follows a pathway down, it follows a pathway back up and goes into the world and out of the world. So, like a lot of things that we talk about, it overlaps many different traditions. You can actually think of the pathways of the Kabbalah as left brain or right brain. It all of this stuff has a basis on more than just sort of occult ideals. Most religions taught in parables in some shape, form, or fashion. And a lot of times what we're finding these days is if you look at those parables on a deeper level, there will be scientific truth and evidence to those things. When you talk about manifestation and the way it was taught in the Hermetic principles, that can go into the modern string theory, where the idea is if you keep going down and down and down and down and down into an atomic level, what you get is no longer atoms like we used to picture them, but you get frequencies. And those frequencies, how they vibrate, affects what form of matter that is. So all this stuff ties it together and comes up with a bigger picture where all these old ideas actually make sense on a level that we're able to understand them better today. If you take out the dogma and the bullshit and the religious aspect of it and just look at this as a way to understand the cosmos, creation, and yourself, then it sort of makes more sense. So let me look over here at the comments and see if I got anything from you guys yet. And as far as I can tell, there's a few folks on here. So let's, hello there. That's better. Okay. All right. So on that note, thoughts, ideas, questions, y'all hit them up as we go along. And let me go over here and all right. So I guess we'll just jump into it at the starting part of this if nobody's got anything. So let's start with a sort of a refresher of what we talked about last time. Let me see how this works, if I can make this actually function like I want it to. Of what we're talking about on a little bit more zoomed in level, and it might make a little more sense as we're going along. I thought it might be a good idea to sort of give an overview of what we're talking about on a little bit more zoomed in level, and it might make a little more sense as we're going along. So in this set of images here, we have one that is the Thoth Tarot along the Kabbalah. And you see where the cards are on the pathways. And we're going to explore this using the Rider-Waite, of course, as we go. And we've already looked at the top, at the supernal triangle. And we'll go back over that in a minute. And we're going to work our way down. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what each one of these means and why it's important. Now, so let's talk about this from a place that most of you guys are already familiar with, of the chakras. So when you're looking at the supernal triangle up at the top, you can think of Keter as like the crown chakra, sort of. It's where everything begins. It's the connection with the divine. And you can think of each one of the Sephira, which is what those little dots on there are called, as being an emanation or an aspect of creation, of God, of self, of whatever you want to call it, but the building blocks of the universe. And in this higher triangle are the three Sephira that you could kind of think of as a spark of creation. So let's look at it like this. All right. The three Sephira in the higher triangle, supernal triangle, are sort of like a gateway to the higher planes, to mystical experiences, access to higher realms. But in this case, it sort of works from above, those higher realms where you get those ideas, boom, a spark of an idea gathered is divine potential. It is what could be. And what could be unfolds into a divine spark of inspiration. So, crown, the potential, moves to wisdom, which is a divine spark we're talking about. That seed of an idea then moves to understanding, which is the receptive feminine side of this triangle, which then gives form to the idea that was sparked. I'm not sure how well I'm explaining that, but basically just picture that from up above, from the crown, you get a download. And that download sparks an idea. And that idea becomes a creative force that you actually start to understand how to work with and to create. Now, this can be a physical or spiritual thing. This whole thing, again, as above, so below. This covers so much ground. It's hard to put into words without explaining something else first. So I get this a little clunky sometimes for that reason, because you have to know one thing to understand another thing, and it gets there. That's why I teach like I do, again, to try to make things make sense, and hopefully I'm kind of sort of doing that. So let's break it down as it pertains to the tarot. Remember, the Fool card is number 0, but it's the first card in the major arcana. And the Fool card is untapped potential. That untapped potential has no expectations. It can be anything. The Fool can progress through the rest of the major arcana and become anything based on the experiences, based on what he sees, based on what he learns. That's the kind of energy we're talking about. It is like a blank slate. Now, remember that the tarot cards represent pathways, at least in the major arcana does. The major arcana is pathways, not the Sephira themselves, but it's how we get there. Now, the magician is from crown to understanding. This is the dynamic forces that shape that untapped potential. So the High Priestess card is a special case because her pathway goes from crown to beauty. And this is also a thing that goes through the dark night of the soul when you're experiencing some of her work, so to speak. There's a hidden Sephira there that we haven't talked about yet that we will. And she passes right through it. Remember the Boaz and Hakeem and her being balanced, that middle pillar. Middle pillar is a wonderful thing and is the best way to get from point A to point B when you're doing internal work. But going through it, there's a lot of shadow work that has to be done. But that's a topic for another day. Just know that she goes from crown to beauty. Yes, she's a little bit outside of a triangle, so to speak, but it's still a part of it. It's weird. Now, the Empress card, her pathway goes between wisdom and understanding, completing that supernal triangle, that divine triangle. Now, since we've gone back through this, it's time to actually move forward, and we're going to move down to the next triangle. The ethical triangle or the ethical triad. And we'll start that with the next card, the Emperor. All right, so you guys with me so far on this? Kind of follow that. Does that make a little more sense as opposed to just trying to teach the pathways? I explain what the hell the pathways are, which was probably a mistake on my part. Make a little more sense? Anybody? You guys out there? Do I need to summon a dragon? I like that guy. All right, so all right, good. So we're going to talk about the Emperor in just a minute, but it's important to note that the Emperor is taking us down to the next of these triads. So those first few, those also represent, because we're talking about the Golden Dawn with this, the people who really rebuilt the tarot back to its intended purpose. Those first few cards do that were things that you would, representations of things that you would learn going through the neophyte level. They also are representative, each one up to we get to the Hierophant, of an actual level itself. Oh, hey Tim, how you doing, buddy? Glad to see you're on here. So, yeah, I know the thing. I mean, with me, right? I have a small phone, big hand. So typing on my phone is usually when I end up looking like an idiot online. You see me post something where it looks like I'm Neanderthal and everything's misspelled. It's largely because of trying to work on the phone. So I know how hard that is to deal with. Okay, well, we're going to step into the Emperor card now for a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm talking about on this. I think I've got this one set up where it'll be decent. So let's. Card, we leave the supernal triangle. In the Emperor card, we leave the supernal triangle, and we go forward under the ethical triangle. Now, this is moving from the divine will, the divine consciousness, to our higher self. It's more conscious awareness than it is of fate, so to speak, or getting those downloads from above, from the crown chakra, if you will, if you're looking at this from that perspective. It's more physical plane, not completely yet, but more physical than it is spiritual. And you can see the style change a little bit. Now, the symbolism is pretty obvious in this. The throne represents power and stability. The crown represents the obvious leadership, but there's a little bit more. The crown also represents a connection to higher wisdom and divine authority. The Ankh symbol on the wand represents manifestation of divine life force. Remember, this is the first card that we're seeing that is bringing things more into the material world. This is the first one that is more physical than the others, as far as the triangles on the Kabbalah go. The globe, on the other hand, represents dominion over the material world. Now, none of these are necessarily how I would interpret this in a reading, but for our purposes today, that's the deeper meaning behind this. The ram's head is another symbol of leadership or power. It's also a reminder that this card is linked to the astrological sun Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, which gives us the aspect of war and ambition, which is a reminder of the Emperor's assertive qualities. Pay attention to the armor under that red robe. The armor is a sign that the Emperor was not passive. This Emperor, here's that net again. So the armor under the robe represents the fact that he is a warrior, that he was able to accomplish these things through strength and through planning and through his own abilities. So it's kind of like that Road of Kings I posted a while back. It's one of my favorite poems about, you know, he won this honorably or dishonorably. He won it by force anyway. Okay, so does that kind of jive? You guys sort of understand where we're going with this on here? Because we've moved from the divine back down to what would represent more on the physical realm, but it's more of a subconscious to conscious mind kind of thing. Make sense? All right. So other ways that you can look at the Sephirah are these are aspects of creation, of divinity, the internal and the external. But for those out there who are Wiccan or who are working on dealing with different gods and goddesses, the Kabbalah, different Sephirah can represent the aspects of those in creation for whatever pantheon you're working with. An example of that would be when you have the higher level of creation with Keter. When you come down to the supernal triangle, you would have Odin on there, maybe Freya, representing aspects of the different Sephirah. They correspond, just like everything else. The colors have a correspondence to them. And again, this goes back into Hermetic principles. All these things tie in and intertwine in ways that are just amazing. The more you look at it, it's like looking at a fractal. If you guys have ever studied fractals or looked at a fractal, then you zoom in on the fractal and there's another fractal and it keeps on going and going and going to infinity. It's the same kind of thing. So that's one that can get really, really, really deep. Now, I haven't really just talked a lot about thoughts and ideas and beliefs and spirituality and all this good stuff for a bit. I haven't really done a Dharma talk in a while. And this isn't really a Dharma talk, but just some thoughts. I've noticed parallels in something. I'm blessed in that I have friends from a whole lot of different religions and backgrounds and different, all around, different races, sexualities, belief systems. You know, I have a wonderful tapestry of friends who have different beliefs, and I truly feel blessed with that. But there was a guru once who mentioned that there are levels of spirituality. He mentioned 7 of those, and I think that there's 3 at least that correspond with no matter what that background or belief system is. It's just human nature. And the first level is when we talk about internal alchemy, like we're talking about growth, about change, about working to make ourselves better people in whatever way we can, in whatever way we believe. Well, some people don't have any interest in that whatsoever. They just go about their lives daily, do their thing for good or bad, and just don't believe in the internal work, the psychology. They don't believe in the spirituality. They don't believe in any religion, Christianity, Judaism, whatever, not even the flying spaghetti monster. They're not really atheists. They just don't have a belief structure. That would be your level 1, your initial baseline level for humanity. Now, this is according to a guru I once heard. Level 2 is when you discover something, and it would be like a new Christian who assumes that what they have learned, because it was powerful for them and it worked for them, that this must be what everyone does. We must teach everyone this, and if you don't do this, you're probably wrong and you're going to be miserable and your life's going to suck and you're probably going to hell. You have that same thing in more of the modern spiritual movement. You'll have people that will believe, okay, this worked for me. This is what we should all do because this is what it is. These people over here are stupid. They're wrong. But what I'm doing is working for me, so you should all do it. So basically, being a zealot on things, being fundamentalist, whether it's Christian, pagan, if you can call pagan fundamentalist, but it's believing that what you believe, everyone should believe, and there's no nuances. The next level of this is where you come to an understanding that there's value in all of these things. There's value in Christianity. There's value in pagan thoughts and modern spirituality, even New Age movement that I bitch about sometimes. There's value in all these things if it helps people to grow and change. And at that point, it's when you come to a level of love and understanding of all people around you and all animals, all creatures, man. I think it was what was that book? It was an early book, something like Blueprint for a Miracle. But the concept in that was that if something is not coming from love, then it has less value on this earth. All things, especially when you're talking about creation, religion, getting your heart right, understanding, it has to come from love. And the thing about that is that a lot of times what we do, myself included, I'm not calling anybody out in the whole world, but as human beings, a lot of things we do from ego because we found something we think this works for us. It's got to be the way. And we tend to not realize that we are all a product of our individual experiences. And sometimes people are not going to jive with this, that, or the other. And what we've been talking about tonight, how all these things intertwine and how they all work together, is a good example of that tribalism that we sometimes get about this person, thinks this way, so they're wrong, and they're doing the same thing. But the whole idea is that we work on building a better world, and this is one of the things that was generally taught in the Kabbalah. And if you've ever listened to a rabbi speak, honestly, rabbis are phenomenal because a lot of what they'll explain is based on love and caring and building a better world. And I think that is the prime directive, so to speak, is how can we build a better world? And that's what I'm working on. And that's my personal goal is to try to, at least when I leave here, leave to where I've done a little more good than damage I have. And I've done a shit ton of damage over the years, so I got a lot of work to do on it. But on that, I can close this. On that, guys. I appreciate all of you. It's going to be a short live tonight because I got some things I have to take care of. I'll have some announcements coming soon about some things that are going to be pretty positive in the long run. And I'm, as always, grateful for each and every one of you guys for being here. Anything anybody want to talk or chat about before we get out of here? Well, I've had fun. I appreciate you guys stopping in. And, well, we have one more comment. Oh, very nice. Very nice, Retha. How's the book coming that you were working on, that you're reading? And Tim, I resent yours, by the way. It's a little bit of chaos. Unfortunately, someone in Kansas ended up with what I thought was going to Warrior, Alabama, but that's another story entirely. But yours is on the way. All right, guys. Peace, love. Hope to see you all very soon. Good night.